This project is a little bit more in the effort department, but it's only because there is one rope that we're going to uncoil, and it does take about 10 minutes to do it. But overall, this is a really easy project as well. I would recommend having someone help you uncoil the rope, because then it will make it go a lot quicker and you're not fighting with it trying to not back up on itself as you're trying to untwist this rope. So the reason why we're going to be untwisting it is because we want two different textures. We want the rope that is wrapped tightly, and then we want a rope that is just a straight strand. So once you've got it untwisted, you will have 3 sections, and we're only going to be using 2 of them today. So the third one we're going to put to the side for something else. Now for the next rope, the second one out of the 3 that we're going to be using, we're not going to untwist that. And then at this point, we're going to take one of the straight ones that is untwisted and the other nautical rope that is twisted, and we're going to take one of these foam wreath rings from the Dollar Tree. All of these supplies can be found at the Dollar Tree. And then we're going to just simply glue that down into place. Now at this point, we're going to take that rope and we're going to continue to wrap it around and around and around, keeping that same pattern where we want the straight one in between the wrapped rope. And this is the thing. I saw this wreath online. It was so extremely expensive, and I knew that we could do it for a fraction of the cost, which is what we're doing today. We're doing this wreath for about $6 versus the $100 that I saw online for. Now the trick with the rope, as you're wrapping it, at the halfway point, you're going to see that one of the twisted ropes is going to get you about halfway around the wreath form, and you're going to have to get out the next one and the second straight strand. But what you're going to do is you're going to continue to compress the inner circle rope so that stays nice and tight, and then the outer is a little bit looser, which is going to give you this beautiful pattern. Isn't this so cool? Now at the very end, you're going to have a little spot where you're still going to see that green foam. We don't want to see that. So that third rope, that's when it's going to come back into play, the one we untwisted, that extra one, and you're just going to wrap it around to conceal it. Now at this point, we're going to add in some greenery. I added 2 ferns, and I'm coming back in with some of this green garland pick that you can get from the Dollar Tree as well. And I'm just going to keep playing with it. I like to lift up my wreaths so I can see them in different views, because if it's just laying flat on the table, sometimes your garlands and your greenery, your flowers, all the things you're putting on it, it can come out a little flat. So I do like to lift it, kind of look at it from different angles. Now at this point, I'm adding in some of these frosted berries. I just think they're so beautiful with the green and the red, so traditional. I love those colors for Christmas. And I'm going to add a sweet gingham bow right in the middle. Now we can leave it there because this is so adorable, or we can take it a step further, which is what I always love doing. So with that extra third rope again, we are going to just tie a knot, slide over about 2 inches, and then tie another knot. Now the reason why we're doing this is I like to have a nice clean look. I don't want to distract from the rope at the top and all that work we just did. So I'm going to create a hook on the back side of the wreath using this extra piece of rope. So you can see that those 2 knots are going to keep the rope from untwining or twisting or fraying, whatever. And I'm going to just glue it down, and now I have this nice loop that's on there that can hook onto my wreath holder for my door. Now these bells are from the Dollar Tree as well. You get 9 in a pack. I'm going to be using about 5 of them. You can use as many as you want. And then I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to just thread it through, and I'm going to tie 3 knots so it's on there nice and secure. Cut off that extra piece I don't want, and then take a little bit of hot glue. Sorry, I was off screen for this part just a little bit. And then I'm going to just make sure that hot glue locks in those knots. And then I'm going to pick up my bells, be careful because they will tangle. Tie them in a knot once I get them all in the position I want. And then I'm going to just simply glue them in place. You do not have to add the bells, but I think the bells are just so beautiful. And it just brings in that Christmas spirit when someone hears it as it jingles on the door. I just love the way it looks, and I love the way it sounds. So now I'm just simply gluing it in place, cutting off that extra piece that you don't want at the top, and then again, adding some more glue. I feel like the finishing touches is where sometimes people rush, and these last little bits is how you make it look high-end and that it came from a store. For this DIY, it's super simple. We're going to take this piece of wood, some bells, and some fabric, and I'm going to start by painting the wood white. This is going to become a cute little house home decor piece. I'm going to then take a strip of that fabric, cut it down to the size that I want, and then on the ends I'm going to create a little dovetail, and I'm going to glue them down into place because I just like when they're glued down very lightly so that they don't flip and get kind of wonky over time. Then I'm going to take one of the bells, lace it onto a piece of twine, bring that underneath the knot, and then simply tie it right in the center of that knot. This is the cutest thing to give to a loved one. If you have a little goodie treat basket that you're taking someone and you just want to give them something for Christmas, these are so easy to make if you like doing a little homemade gift to give people. And then I just put this little twine bow in the middle of it. And for a great substitute, if you don't have a Cricut or a Silhouette, a cutting machine, these rub-ons from the Dollar Tree are so fantastic. You just simply cut out the letters that you need, peel off the little white paper on the back, rub them down, lift up the little clear piece of plastic on the front, and then you have the cutest little custom sign. So easy to make, so quick. And what a great way to make a home decor piece. And then I just sanded the sides just a little bit to add some texture and some depth. For this DIY, we are going to be using a really chunky, thick yarn in white and red, and we're also going to be using an ornament from the Dollar Tree. Now, a trick I like to do is I always like to put my yarn inside of some type of a box that has a hole, so that way it doesn't roll off the table and pick up any dust or whatever might be around my craft space. So I'm just going to thread that through the whole of this Dollar Tree box, and then I can get started on my craft. Start by taking the two ends of the yarn, and you're going to go ahead and just put them right in the center, the bottom of the ornament. Then you're going to start adding some hot glue and coiling it around. Once you've got that started, you're going to go ahead and just take your hot glue, and I like to kind of go in a zigzag back and forth with my hot glue to make sure that I'm covering all of my surface that I will need for the yarn to really catch and stick to the ornament. Then as I'm going back and forth, I'm making sure I'm pulling the yarn around nice and snug so that way it doesn't want to come unravel over time. And make sure when you're doing it, try your very best not to tap the hot glue, obviously because it will burn you, but also because when that hot glue gets on your hand, it wants to naturally pull up that yarn. So you're going to want to make sure that you're being as cautious as you can with this one. But it is so fun, and how cool could this be? You could do this with any color. You can do it with even more than two. I really loved how this turned out. As I was coiling around more and more and more, I thought this could be so cool if I made a whole bunch of these and had this for whatever my color theme is, because I'm always changing things out throughout my home, always for Christmas and all the seasons. So here I am towards the end. I'm bringing it up nice and tight to the lid or the little cap. And then I'm going to add some hot glue, and then this is the trick. I like to take my hot glue and I just like to press that right down on there to smooth it out with the hot glue. And then to conceal that last little part of the hot glue, I added a bow. And now this is my tip whenever I'm doing ornaments. I like to thread through a piece of twine. I'm going to go back so you can see it again. I fold it in half. I slip down that knot or that little loop that we have, and this is going to allow your ornament to stay out from it turning or going to the side and it not being centered towards the front. Then I'm simply going to tie a knot up at the top, and then I'm gonna cut it off and then add a little bit of hot glue to seal it and tie it all together so that way it doesn't come unraveled over time, and then you have a nice clean look at the very top of your ornament. And once you're all done and everything's all dry, you're ready to hang it up on your Christmas tree. For this DIY, we're going to be using 3 of these wood rounds, and this is kind of a 3-for-1 on this project. You honestly could make as many of these as you want. I picked up this box of wood rounds from Artesia. I'm going to link it down below in my description box if you're looking for some of these. But what I did was I started with painting white circles in the middle of each one, and then once they were dry, I went ahead and came in with my pencil and I just sketched on 3 different words as well as a little green vine on each of them. I like to do this first with my pencil instead of just going at it with paint because it is so easy to make a mistake and then have to start over. It's so frustrating. So I always like to go in with my pencil first. I always keep one in my craft room for measuring or whatever, or handwriting. And then I'm just now going to come in with my black paint and I'm going to take my time. This is obviously sped up for TV, but I like to take my time when I'm painting these. And then I'm going to come back in with my green and simply paint on a vine, and I've got a beautiful set of 3 ornaments. And to finish it off, I added some twine and a cute bow up at the top to hang up on my tree. For this next ornament, we're going to be using a large ornament, again from the Dollar Tree, and some of their red and white gingham ribbon. Now we're going to go ahead and take off the cap because we're going to be putting some paint on the inside. This is a trick that has been around for a long time, but we're going to do something special with this. So we're going to just take that white paint, we're going to shake it around in there until we get all the sides covered, and then just make sure you drain out the excess paint. You don't want to have a lot of paint in there because that's going to cause it to have an issue later and it will take forever to dry. So once you tap it a few times and you just let it sit there, the majority of the paint is going to naturally want to drain out. Once all the paint has drained out and it's dried, go ahead and start by wrapping a ribbon around. I'm going to be using this red and white gingham ribbon that I got so lucky when I found this at the Dollar Tree in their floral section. I couldn't believe it. They had it in all different colors and I snagged a whole bunch because I just love this and I use this ribbon all the time. So once I wrapped it around, I'm now going to add on a little bow to the front. These cones are such a find. If you can get your hands on them, they're from the Dollar Tree. They're $1.25 for each one in their floral sections. Now I'm going to be using 2 of them, the larger and smaller, 3 long Garland 15-foot strands that they also have at the Dollar Tree, and then also a berry garland that they have at the Dollar Tree. Now this project is so easy. You're going to take your garland, you're going to unwrap it from its coiled up circle, and you're going to just simply tie the first top piece at the top of your cone, and then you're going to start coiling it down. Now I like to add a little bit of hot glue here and there so I make sure everything stays nice and tight without slipping. And I do have a tip when you're doing this: don't wrap it so tight that you're going to run out of the length to get all the way to the bottom of your cone, because you want to make sure that you have enough to get all the way to the bottom. And the one strand works perfect on the smaller cone. On the larger cone, I would recommend using 2 strands just because I feel like it gives it a better coverage. You don't want it to look skimpy. I think that's when it starts looking kind of homemade, you know, a DIY fail, as a lot of people like to joke online about, is whenever it starts to look skimpy and you can see holes through it. So I like to use 2 on the larger one and 1 on the smaller one. Now when you get to the bottom, you're just simply going to cut off any extra that you don't need, and then you're just going to wrap it around nice and tight at the bottom and hot glue it into place. Now at this point, it really is up to you what you want to do. You could put some fake snow on it. Now I've decided for myself, because I love that country charm Christmas look where it's traditional green and red, So I'm going to take this berry garland and I'm just going to simply coil it all the way down. And I'm not doing it super tight because I don't want it getting lost in the greenery. I want it to sit lightly at the surface. So I'm just kind of coiling it down like you can see here. And then when I get to the end, I'm just going to tie it into place. Now again, we could stop here. This is really cute. Or we could take it a step further, which I love to do here on my channel. I love to just keep playing with it until it has its own life and its own personality. So I'm going to simply take this bow. This is the easiest bow to make. You're going to zigzag back and forth until you get 4 loops. You'll have one in on one side, one the other side. You're going to flatten out the ribbon, and then you're going to just simply tie it into a knot. You know, go around the tree through the hole and then pull. So you can see here that I'm just taking that end part with the 2 loops and the end, and I'm going to pull it through, and then I'm going to adjust the ribbon just a little bit, and then I'll pull it tight. This is the quickest way to get a double looped bow, and it looks beautiful. You would never know. I figured this out a couple years ago, so I thought I would share it today just in case you haven't tried this yet. It's a really fun technique to get a really pretty bow that's nice and full. And then all you got to do is just fluff your bow out a little bit, kind of zhuzh it, play with it, and then cut it to the length that you want. So at this point, because this is the smaller one, I want the ribbons to be just a little bit smaller. And then of course, I can't resist, I'm going to add a little wooden star to the top.
This cold December day, on this cold December day,